It was far from a perfect game for the Boston Bruins, but you won't find me complaining about a road win over the Avalanche in a game that Joonas Korpisalo started.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Thursday, October 17th. Tuke season is back, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Before we get started, looking at the storylines, stats, and signals from last night's win over the Colorado Avalanche. A quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. The big story last night, just the fact that the Bruins won, okay? The Colorado Avalanche were 0-3-0 coming into this game, and you have the Bruins electing to start Joonas Korpisalo. You could very well have penciled in a loss here for the Bruins, as a very potent and talented Avalanche team looked to break out from this early season slump that they are mired in. And yet the Bruins came out and won by a score of 5-3. And one of the big stories, of course, was the continued success of the fourth line. We'll look at some of the stats here coming up later on in the podcast. But last night, they stepped up once again as Cole Koepke opened the scoring on assists from Andrew Peeke and Nikita Zadorov. And Johnny Beecher later iced it with an empty netter with around 2 minutes remaining in the third period. Just incredible, sustained production for this team, or for this line, through the first 5 games or so. Now, do we expect them to keep this up? No, but honestly, they are one of the best lines in hockey at the moment. And you need, 4 lines rolling consistently to win in today's NHL. And this fourth line is as effective as any, not just on the Bruins right now, but across the league. Effective checking, puck support. They just continually create quality opportunities when they're on the ice, and they were rewarded once again with the goal from Koepke and from Beecher to ice it. Jim Montgomery just flat out said, I think we need to stop calling them the fourth line. It's impressive the way they're playing. They're earning all the ice time they're getting. Their details, their work ethic, and their puck support with one another offensively and defensively allow them to have a tremendous amount of success. And spoiler alert for the stats part of the show, but this trio has outscored opponents 8-0 during 5-on-5 play, which is just insane for a fourth line. Usually the fourth line's out there to hold things down, to give the top offensive guys a rest, but these guys are going out there, they're creating chances, and they are making good on them so far anyways, which is huge for the Bruins. That just remains a top storyline for this team. Full credit as well to Joonas Korpisalo in this one. He is not going to play a lot of games this season, I don't think. And I was kind of surprised that they went with him, considering there's some breaks here between games, but they elected to go with Korpisalo, and he came through with the victory. An .880 save percentage, allowing 3 goals on 25 shots, but none 5-on-5. All three of Colorado's goals came on the power play, which is significant. You can't fault him too much for, the majority of the game was played 5-on-5. He made some big stops, including one early on that could have put the Bruins behind, chasing the game from the get-go, but he made a big stop and made several others throughout the game. Yes, he let in one, maybe two that he should have had, but overall played well enough to give the team a win. He's not the one out there taking penalties. He's not the one out there putting his team down a man. So you can't fault him too much for the power play goals. At 5-on-5, he was very, very good. Now, we talked yesterday about the middle six and shaking that up. Jim Montgomery elected to scratch Morgan Geekie and Justin Brazeau, and he put Trent Frederick up with Brad Marchand and Charlie Coyle. He also formed a line of Riley Tufte, Matt Poitras, and Max Jones. And that was a line that was effectively benched later on in the game. And it's not, it's not a solution to be had here. Jones did have some hits, a shot on net. Riley Tufte, fairly invisible in this one. And again, in the early third, Montgomery had shortened the bench, specifically after Riley Tufte had committed his second minor penalty in the offensive zone, which you just cannot happen, especially against a team like the Avalanche, who made the Bruins pay. Poitras deserves a better line assignment than that. He should not be the one who has to sit because his line mates are not producing. So let's see what happens here. I could easily see Jones and Tufte both scratched, with Poitras coming back, playing with Geekie, Brazeau. Who knows if they'll sign Tyler Johnson in the meantime? Maybe Tufte's performance last night was enough to get them to put him on waivers and then sign Tyler Johnson. But those are the big storylines last night. The Bruins, fourth line, continuing to roll, contributing 2 goals. Korpisalo doing enough to get the Bruins the win. Despite the penalty trouble the Bruins found themselves in. And that middle six still needing a boost. However, there were some key stats and contributions from guys that we've been looking for more from, specifically Charlie Coyle. We'll talk about some of these stats here coming up as the podcast continues. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and they're helping you get in on the action right now with a fantastic boost on your first $5 bet. You can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel. Just put $5 down on whether or not David Pastrnak will score, over-under on shots, over-under on the Bruins point total for the season, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. When you're watching the games and you get a hunch, you can check the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets. So get in on the action with big returns on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com right now to get started. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, when it comes to the stats from last night's game, it was kind of a tale of 2 games or 2 periods versus another for the Bruins, as they were quite dominant in the early going. 5-on-5 through the first and second period. In the first period, they had 59.26 of all shot attempts generated at 5-on-5. The second period, they had 63.64 of percent of the shot attempts generated. 16-11 advantage for the Bruins at 5-on-5 in the first, 21-12 in the second. In the third, though, as the Avs found themselves down by a score of 4-2, they really turned it on and had a 22-5 shot attempt differential at 5-on-5 in the third period. 9-3 the shot differential as well. If we kick that up to all situations, the Bruins had the overall advantage in terms of shot attempts, 60-54. But again, the Avs really came out firing in the third period with a 14-4 shot differential. And they also managed to score to bring it within one. Thankfully, Johnny Beecher was able to secure things with that empty netter late in the second period. The Bruins overall had the shot attempt differential. They had, shots overall were 25-25. Scoring chances were 29-29. High danger chances were 11-11. This is in all situations. And ultimately, it was a 5-3 game for the Boston Bruins as they were able to maximize their even strength opportunities. Now, when it comes to the penalty kill, not great at all last night. The Avs went a perfect 3 for 3 on the power play. The Bruins took, again, some bad penalties that they should not have. And they were they literally penalized for it. Riley Tufte holding against Josh Manson. Zadorov slashing against Matt Steenberg. Riley Tufte cross-checking against Mikko Rantanen. Zadorov also fought Mr. Steenberg. And on all three of those minors, the Bruins paid, allowing a power play goal to Ross Colton, one to Cale Makar, and one to Mikko Rantanen, who made the score 4-3 at the time with that one. Penalty kill, usually pretty solid, but on this night, they were not good at all, which is not great, and really did Joonas Korpisalo a disservice for making things harder on him than they should have been. When your backup's in there, you want to play smart hockey. This is no longer a situation where you have Linus Ullmark in there to cover for Swayman or vice versa. There's a distinct drop-off when Korpisalo is in the net. So all things considered, the fact that they got this win, I can't complain, but the penalty kill really does need to pick it up. Having said that, the Bruins did score 2 goals of their own on the power play, including the first goal of the season, the first point of the season, recorded by Charlie Coyle, and that was assisted by Mason Lohrei. Hugely important for Coyle to get on the score sheet after a pretty tough start to the season so far. He had 1 goal on 3 shots. He had a block, a hit as well, a few takeaways. Easily his best game of the season for the Boston Bruins. I mentioned Cole Koepke getting the goal. He now has 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. Every point he gets, demolishing his previous career high, which was 2 points last season as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Kind of just, I don't want to say a diamond in the rough, but just the Bruins seem to have tapped into something here with Koepke. He was brought up through the Tampa Bay Lightning system and just wasn't given an opportunity there. He comes in and he's had great success so far with the Boston Bruins, which we love to see. I mentioned Mason Lohrei. Since being benched in the season opener, he has really come alive for the Boston Bruins. He had a very rough first game against the Florida Panthers. He was scratched for the home opener against the Montreal Canadiens, but he had a power play assist last night in a season-high 17 minutes of ice time, a shot on goal. The previous game against the Panthers, he had that goal and an assist. He's now on a 3-game point streak with 4 points in 3 games since getting that scratch, and he's also been a net positive over those 3 games as well. If you're into plus minus, he was an even 0 last night, an even 0 the game before, a +1 in the win over the Kings on Saturday. So he's definitely taken that to heart, that scratching, and bounced back in a big way. And the Bruins need him to provide that consistency and some offensive pop here as the season goes on. When it comes to signals moving forward, well, we can expect some changes here on the third line. Jim Montgomery said he's always been a coach that if you go out and play the right way, you're showing effort and execution, you're going to get rewarded with ice time. They have to continue to build that throughout the lineup. Riley Tufte did himself no favors in that regard, and I would expect him to be out. If not, there's always the chance that he could be waived prior to the next game to make way for Tyler Johnson. The penalty kill certainly needs some fine-tuning. It was nice to see the power play coming along. However, they had failed to score in their last 12 attempts entering Wednesday's action, but both units found the back of the net in this game with, again, Charlie Coyle getting the power play goal, assisted by Mason Lohrei, and the other goal came from David Pastrnak, his 4th of the season. That was assisted by Hampus Lindholm and Brad Marchand. Speaking of Marchand, he briefly left the game after taking a hit, but he was able to return, thankfully. He did miss practice the other day, so I don't know if he's dealing with something, but if he were to miss any time, that would be even more detrimental to the team's overall depth. But Jim Montgomery said after the game that he's fine. It was just a bit of a spasm. So great to see the power play come alive. Great to see Charlie Coyle get on the board. Hopefully that bodes well for kind of a bounce back for him after a tough start. I'd expect Tufte to be out of the lineup Saturday's game against Utah, and perhaps we'll get some more lineup changes, but I'll keep you up to date here on Locked On Boston Bruins. Those are all the storylines, stats, and signals that you need to know from last night's game against the Colorado Avalanche. A fairly surprising win, I'm not going to lie. I was not expecting that to happen, but thankfully the Bruins got the W. They're now 3-2, and on tomorrow's show, we'll preview Saturday's game against the Utah Hockey Club. Coming up as the podcast continues, we have a new jersey to discuss and perhaps a look at what we can expect for the Bruins next season. We'll get to that here as the podcast continues. I don't know about you, but I just love attending live events, whether it's a concert, going to see the Arkells again, coming up in a few weeks, hockey games, comedy, theater maybe. The place that I turn to for tickets is Game Time, and they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love the view from your seat on the app, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive at the venue. And with Game Time, your purchase is always covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Terms do apply, but again, just create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off, because what time is it? It's game time. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 12 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Just go to prizepicks.com, download the app today, and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's Prize Picks. Download the app, use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Ew, we have a new jersey. Friends, I'm going to turn on my screen share here for those of you who are watching on YouTube and take a look at this beautiful new jersey that the Bruins have unveiled for their Centennial Game against the Montreal Canadiens on December 1st, which just happens to be my birthday. This jersey is presented by Duncan, and the Centennial Game, Cam Neely said, will be a special moment for the organization and, more importantly, the fans. So the jersey design had to fit the occasion. So many elements, both for fans and players to enjoy. Neely's favorite part is on the bottom hemline. When the players pull the jersey over their heads, there's 4 lines there underneath the headline: tradition, grit, passion, heart. These are the values that the Bruins try to embody and have for a century and will carry with us for the next generation, which begins December 1st. It's a beautiful jersey, harkens back to the late 80s, early 90s look that I personally am a huge fan of. And I hope, and there's word that this is what the Bruins could go back to as early as next season. More details on the jersey. It's a special edition jersey that people are already pointing out costs about $600, which too rich for me, but God bless you if you can grab one. So there's the anniversary crest worn throughout last season that will be on the front. It combines the vintage spokes rep by Bruins legends like Bobby Orr and Ray Bourque with the contemporary Varsity B that's been featured on Causeway Street since 2007. It draws design inspiration from the 80s, which was a pivotal era in Bruins history that embodies the team's core values. Longtime listeners know that's the team that I came up watching, loving: Cam Neely, Ray Bourque, etc. And also a bit of a modern take on that, though, with dipped gold sleeves and socks, with the modern take on traditional striping. I kind of wish they had just gone with the full black underneath the stripes, but it's a cool modern look and easily becomes one of my favorite jerseys that they have put out. And hopefully they will go with it for the entirety of next season. It features a new color inverted version of the Centennial patch, like I mentioned, the Centennial crest, and there's a special design on the collar and on the bottom hemline that Neely referenced there in that quote. The collar displays the score of the club's first ever game played at Boston Arena on December 1st, 1924, a 2-1 win over the Montreal Maroons. And then you have tradition, grit, passion, and heart, which the club will carry with them into the future. Very nice look. Seems to be getting a lot of positive feedback online. And again, they'll be wearing this one specifically on December 1st with a view to hopefully incorporating this into their full-time look beginning next season. I love the clean black on the shoulders for sure. Again, not as wild about the end sleeves, but still a better look overall, in my opinion. And hopefully, if the rumors are true, this will be what they carry on next season. That's it for today's episode, my friends. A very nice win over Colorado last night. They have 2 days off before taking on Utah on Saturday. Utah is a very young, fun team so far this season, and we'll preview that game on tomorrow's episode. Do check out the Locked On Fantasy podcast next. All the expertise you need from Steal and Flip to get the advantage over the opposition. And please do subscribe to Locked On Bruins if you haven't already on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. And we'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.